Hello everybody, WC Replays. This is Speierg coming at you with another audio commentary from the human perspective. Hey, hope you guys are doing well. This is a pretty sweet matchup between SK Insomnia and MTW. I don't know how he pronounces his name. I don't know if it's Protois or if it's Protois or Protois. I really don't know. I'm just going to call him Proto for the rest of this audio. And hey, hope you guys are doing well. Things here on my end have been pretty good of late. Summer months are in full swing over here in the state of Virginia, and yeah, it's been fun getting to take my boys to the pool and do some fun stuff like that. So anyhow, wanted to crank out an audio for you guys, and I think this is a cool game. Get it paused at the 1 minute mark, and then we're gonna count it down in a few seconds here, but this is on Tarina Stand, and pretty cool game here that shows one of the main things I think that this game illustrates is that there are times in this game where you can be offensive, and then there are times when you kind of need to take on a defensive posture in hopes of dragging things out a little while so that you can get caught up, get the right army that you need in order to counter your opponent, and then you make your move offensively. So there are times when you can strike, and there are times when you really shouldn't strike, and it really will depend oftentimes in kind of how the game unfolds. But I think you'll get a feel for that here in this particular game. So without further delay, let's get this thing unpaused, okay? Here we go, unpausing in 3, 2, 1, unpause. So I was at the 1 minute mark, 1x speed, SK Insomnia's point of view, Fog of War turned off, and you're going to see Insomnia going to do pretty standard build here, and the approach that he uses in this particular game is fairly consistent with some of the comments that I made on the human versus undead matchup back a while ago, maybe a couple months ago. I did another human versus undead audio where one of the main points I made was that there are certain windows of opportunity for the human player to expand when there's very little that the undead player can do to stop that. And you're going to see that Insomnia will do a fairly routine base build here. Notice the scout farm that he places out here across the bridge. Always a good idea when you can build scout farms like that. It's like an early warning system. It lets you know oftentimes when your opponent is approaching your main, and that's always a good thing. The more knowledge you have, the better. And he's chasing this ghoul around, trying just to kind of get a couple of hits on this ghoul, knowing that the harassment is on its way, that there will be some ghoul harassment, and there will probably be a Death Knight harassment on its way. So he's going to militia creep this Goblin Laboratory, which is a pretty good idea on this map to go ahead and creep this out right off the bat. Get about 4 militia and your normal couple of footies and a water elemental. You'll notice that every time that the ghoul gets close, he'll kind of attack the ghoul to chase him off, because there is the possibility that that ghoul could sneak in and steal one of these kills, which would obviously give the experience to Proto instead of to Insomnia. So he just is trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. And here comes a Death Knight for the usual harassment. So this is one of those situations where, you kind of probably have to accept the inevitability that you may lose a peasant or two during this harassment, and it's just not the end of the world, particularly if you have not teched yet. You can just replace those peasants, and it's not that big of a deal. And here you see he's going to lose another one, that's part of the game. However, he's continuing to crank out footmen, and you're going to see he's going to stay with tier 1 for a pretty long period of time in this game. Right now, he's been able to get his Archmage up to level 2. And the Death Knight is still lingering with just a couple of peasant kills. So, he's got a little bit of a level advantage here, and he can maybe push this Death Knight back. He's really, more than anything else, just trying to get the Death Knight kind of off of his back right now. So he kind of feints a little bit here as if he's going to attack the Death Knight, and in reality what he wants to do is creep some more. So you'll see he'll come up here and creep. And the Death Knight's hanging around, going to try and steal some of these creep kills while simultaneously doing a little creeping of his own with his ghouls, which he's been doing. You can see the Death Knight is now approaching level 2, about 2/3 of the way there. So Insomnia does a nice job here splitting his army, finishing off the creep camp with part of his army while kind of chasing the Death Knight off to prevent him from being able to steal some of those kills. And at this point, Insomnia kind of leaves one footman to chase that Death Knight around. That's not a bad idea. You can kind of keep an eye on where the Death Knight is that way. It's almost like a little bit of scouting. Of course, you can't follow him all over the map doing that because the speed of the Death Knight will eventually get too far away from that footman. But in a situation like this where the Death Knight's kind of hanging around and staying close to your army, you can use that little trick to kind of keep an eye on him. You may lose that footman in the process, but you just have to be kind of prepared for that and ready to move him out. Now watch what Insomnia does here. This is a nice little move with this creep. He really wants to get the experience from this level 5 Sasquatch. So he's going to stop attacking the Sasquatch right about now, knowing that the Death Coil is coming. The Death Coil does not quite kill the Sasquatch, and so then he immediately goes back, attacks it, and kills it. So perfectly timed there by Insomnia. That's a little trick that you may want to adapt in your own play style. And I apologize that I don't know the numbers offhand, but I think that level 1 coil does something like 100 damage. So you might want to look that up, look up that damage amount, and know exactly how much it does, so that you can just remember to leave a couple of maybe a couple hundred hit points on a creep if that Death Knight is lurking, and then let him zap it with the Death Coil, and then you still get the kill because he'll get it down to just a couple of hit points for you. So most of you guys probably already knew that, but if not, then that might be a helpful tip for you. So here you can see he's remained at tier 1. He's going for an early expansion. Again, this is not like a true fast expo strategy, but it's a very early expo strategy, and he's loaded up with quite a few footmen. And what you're going to see here is that he's going to now run over and attack Proto in order to prevent him from being able to take down his expansion. So really, this is not really a push. This is not really an incredibly offensive maneuver here. It's really more of a defensive ploy. He's going to try to keep Proto busy, knowing, and at this point confirming as he sees his base, that the Undead player is probably going to go for that typical fast tech on up to tier 3 to get destroyers. And that's exactly what he's doing. So he's going to come in here and really just kind of do some acolyte harassment. He is able to get one of those acolytes before, now really 2 of the acolytes end up going down. So that slows down the economy of the Undead player because he cannot replace those acolytes while he's teching. And so that's a good thing for Insomnia. Now he knows that he's probably going to lose some footmen in this exchange here, particularly once the Lich pops out for Proto. It's going to get ugly quick. But these are some losses that he's willing to take. He uses those illusion on his footmen, and that buys him a little extra time. And really all this is buying some time so he can get his expansion up and running and defend it a little bit. So one of the things that you want to try and do in this kind of situation, it's very easy to get so focused on what you're doing kind of offensively here in terms of attacking the Undead player that you forget the macro aspect, which is to continue to upgrade the towers at your expansion, to build an arcane vault at your expansion, to make sure you have enough peasants at your expansion, etc. And he did actually get a little bit late with that arcane vault, and so he tries to kind of speed build it here now, so that by the time his archmage gets there, as you see the archmage is kind of retreating right now, hopefully he can get there, and the timing actually ends up being about right for him. So he's not able to buy a scroll right off the bat because he buys that clarity potion, and he didn't have enough room in his inventory to get a scroll as well because he bought that dust of appearance. And you may be wondering, why did he buy that dust of appearance? Well, you'll see how that comes in handy later on in the game. It ends up being a pretty good move. So he does get nuked here. He loses the Archmage, and this is where you begin the process of really playing a defensive-minded game. And Somebody did a nice job earlier. He saved. I mean, if you look here, there are 7 injured footmen here. So that's good and bad. The bad thing is that they're all injured and that they're in danger of all being killed. But the good news is that he saved them all. I mean, he could have easily lost all those footmen, but he microed well enough to save them, and that's going to help him a little bit later on. And right now he's just being defensive. You see he uses this water elemental to kind of, come out and do a little bit of damage, maybe try and draw the heroes into where his towers can get them. And you can see he's just popping up towers everywhere, both at his expansion and at his main, because he knows he's got nothing right now. I mean, he's got 7 injured footmen. He's got no heroes out at the moment. And he knows that his opponent has ghouls at his disposal and is going to have destroyers in a very short amount of time. So really, you can see, he's got tier 2 now, but he's going to have to invest some money into this building all these towers, and so he's not going to hit tier 3 terribly soon. And he's going to really have to stall. He's going to have to try and buy some time. So this is a great example of how when you research improved masonry and you get enough peasants repairing a tower, you can get one of these towers to really hold up for a pretty good long time. And so he's probably going to lose a peasant or 2 here once again, but hey, in the process, he's going to keep these towers alive, and the whole point right now is just to stall. Just to delay the inevitable, just to stay alive, to try not to take too much damage while he is trying to get the army that he knows he is going to need. So you can see he's building a blacksmith, and he's continuing to research advanced masonry so that those towers are going to be even further upgraded. So you can see, again, this is a defensive mindset. This is not, I don't know that Insomnia necessarily set out thinking I'm going to build a lot of towers in this game. But when the game went in the direction that it went, it quickly became obvious that I need to get defensive minded here, and so he got to a place where he really didn't have much choice but to build a whole bunch of towers and play defensively for a while. So now he gets his Archmage back in the game, runs down here, buys a scroll, starts to heal up his peasants, starts to heal up his footmen, and that's going to buy him a little bit of time, but, really at this stage of the game, there's not much he can do offensively, so he's still trying to buy time. Proto does a nice job of positioning his army such that he can take out this Arcane Vault without taking any damage from the towers that remain. So, seeing that the Arcane Vault's going to go down, you can see that Insomnia just goes over there, quickly buys an ivory tower, and places it in a good spot so that he can further defend this expansion. He just wants to keep this expansion alive. He wants to continue to build up an economic advantage. And if you look back at his main base, you can see there are 2 workshops going up, and he is also researching the black gunpowder upgrade. So clearly, what he has in mind here at this stage of the game is, hey, oh, and by the way, I almost missed that, but you saw the Dust of Appearance going off right there. You're almost able to get a surprise kill on that Death Knight. They kind of had the Death Knight surrounded, and the Death Knight was able to hide using the Cloak's Shadows. But very heads-up play there by Insomnia to use the Dust of Appearance and put enough pressure on that Death Knight to make him TP out. And again, sometimes that's all you can do. You force your opponent to TP out. Again, buy some time. Get him off your back for even just a minute or 2. I mean, he can't really do anything right now. He can't really creep. I mean, for crying out loud, look at his army. He's got 5 footmen and 2 low-level heroes, 3 and 1. So, he's got a 48 food army compared to Proto, also at 48 food, but Proto's at tier 3 and some destroyers at his disposal. So clearly he's got a very superior army at this point in time. But the production of flying machines has begun. And he's going to crank out a whole mess of these flying machines in an effort to counter the destroyers. And if you've ever thought flying machines do not counter destroyers because maybe you've tried it and you've just gotten your butt kicked trying to do that, you're going to see that it actually can work pretty well if you do things the right way. Anyway, he's going to lose some footmen here because you've got a whole bunch of destroyers full of mana, and when destroyers are full of mana, you run away. I mean, that's really all you can do is run away. Again, play defensively. Try and repair these towers. Keep as many of these towers alive as you possibly can. He lost all but 2 of his footmen. He's still got a couple of, he's still got both of his heroes intact, but I mean, there's just really not much he can do here. The towers are the only thing keeping him alive, and he's just got to play defensively right now. I mean,